Attention, brave souls. What you're about to witness might make your heart race. Before the suspense takes over your screen, click subscribe now and hit the like button. Get ready for a spine-chilling experience. But be warned, only the boldest will survive until the end.
My name is Teyanadawaya. I am a hunter, a scout, a man of 19 winters. You do not know me, but I need you to hear this. I have carried this story like a wound, deep beneath my skin, festering in the dark. I was told never to speak of it. I was told that words have weight, that some things should not be named. But silence is a heavy thing to bear, so I will tell you. I will tell you what happened in the whispering woods, where the snow swallowed footprints and the trees watched without eyes. I will tell you about the voices in the wind, and I will tell you about it, the thing that waits, the thing that calls. I was a fool once. I did not believe the warnings. Now, I do. The snow was deep that year, deeper than I had ever seen. It smothered the earth in thick silence, burying the sounds of the world beneath its frozen weight. Even the rivers ran sluggish beneath their icy shells, their voices muffled, strangled. It was in that silence that we set out. There were 5 of us, strong men, skilled hunters, men who knew the land as well as their own hands. We carried bows, knives, and the quiet confidence of those who had never been prey. I remember the cold, how it bit through my furs, sharp as a blade. The wind was restless, whispering through the trees, moving the branches in slow, skeletal gestures. The others spoke little. There was something in the air that pressed down on us, though none of us would name it. I should have turned back then, but I didn't. We found tracks in the snow. A deer, large, fresh, a gift in the dead of winter, or so we thought. We followed. The tracks led us deep, past the familiar hunting paths, past the places our fathers had taken us as children. The deeper we went, the more the forest changed. The trees were wrong here. Twisted, gnarled, their bark split open like yawning mouths. Their branches did not move with the wind. They trembled. The silence deepened. The world held its breath. Then we heard it, a voice, faint, fragile, calling my name. It came from the trees, from the wind, from nowhere. Teyanada. I stopped. The others did too. I could feel their eyes on me, but no one spoke. Teyanada. It was a whisper, barely more than the wind. But it was there. It was real. I told myself it was nothing. Just the cold playing tricks. The wind through the branches. I kept walking. The deer tracks ended. Just stopped. No blood. No disturbed snow. Nothing. Like the animal had simply vanished. The others murmured uneasily. At Sadie, young reckless, laughed, but it was a thin, brittle sound. Spirits took it, he said, grinning. But there was fear in his eyes. We turned back. But the forest did not want us to leave. The sun began to set. The light blurred from the sky, shadows stretching long and thin. The air grew colder, heavy with something unseen. That night, we made camp. A small fire, close together. No one spoke much. The whispers returned, fainter now, soft, almost gentle. Teyanada. I did not answer. I should have woken the others. I should have run. By dawn, Atsadi was gone. His bedroll was empty. His bow lay on the ground beside it. There were footprints leading away from camp. They went only a few paces before they stopped. Just stopped. As if he had been lifted into the sky, or dragged into the dark. We searched. We called his name, but the forest gave nothing back. Only silence, only whispers. We left. We did not speak of what had happened. Not then. Not yet. But we all felt it. Something was watching. Something was waiting. And the whispers were growing louder. I will tell you the rest soon. But I need you to understand. Some things are not meant to be followed. Some names should not be answered. And when the wind whispers to you in the dead of night, when it calls your name, do not listen. Do not follow. Do not look. I returned to the village, my body numbed by the cold, my mind heavier than the winter sky. The others walked in silence, their faces pale, their eyes refusing to meet mine. We had left with 5. We came back with 4. Atsadi was gone. The elders gathered in the longhouse, their eyes like embers in the dim light of the fire. I told them everything. How his footprints simply stopped, how his bow was left behind like an offering, how the wind carried whispers that did not belong to the living. When I finished, there was no shock, no outrage, only silence thick as tree sap, stretching unbearably long. Dakota, the oldest among them, finally spoke. His voice was low, weighted with something ancient. "You should not have spoken its name." The others murmured in agreement. Their faces were grim, but not surprised. They had been expecting this. I frowned. Atsadi didn't just disappear. Something took him. Dakota exhaled slowly, watching me through the shifting firelight. "Not something," he said. "It does not take, it calls." The word sent a shiver through me, colder than the mountain air. Dakota gestured for me to sit, leaning in as if speaking too loudly would give the thing power. Utina does not chase its prey. It waits, it whispers, it watches. And when you listen, when you follow, he let the words hang unfinished. I swallowed, my throat dry. "What happens if you follow?" He closed his eyes, as if remembering something long buried. When he spoke again, his voice was barely above a breath. "You do not return." The other elders nodded solemnly, their expressions carved from stone. The fire crackled, but it could not warm the dread curling in my stomach. "You say it calls," I pressed. "Then how do we stop it?" Dakota leaned closer, his lined face a map of warnings. "You do not answer, you do not listen. And above all, Elsa," his eyes darkened, "you do not follow." The fire snapped loudly, and I flinched. Somewhere outside, the wind moaned through the trees. It almost sounded like my name. That night, I lay in my hut, my mind circling Dakota's words like a hawk over prey. "It does not take, it calls." I told myself I would not listen. I told myself it was only the wind. Then I heard it, a voice, soft, gentle, twisting through the cold. "Teanata," I sat up, heart hammering against my ribs. The village was silent. The fire in the center had burned low, its embers barely glowing, and yet the voice remained. It was coming from outside. I knew better. I knew what Dakota had said, but against every instinct, against every warning, I rose. The floor was ice beneath my bare feet. The door creaked open, and the night swallowed me whole. The snow had stopped falling, but the world was unnaturally still. No wind, no rustling trees, even the river, always whispering its song, had fallen silent. The stars above looked cold and distant, as if they had drawn back from whatever walked below. Then I saw them, footprints, leading away from my hut. I stepped forward. The ground did not crunch beneath me. The night did not stir. It was as if the world was holding its breath. The footprints were deep, deliberate. They led toward the tree line, toward the place where Atsadi had vanished. A gust of wind slid through the village, and the voice returned. "Teanada." But this time, it was different. It was my mother's voice. I froze. She had been dead for 3 winters. My hands trembled. My body begged me to turn back, but the voice, God's, the voice, was so familiar, so warm. I took a step forward, then another. The forest loomed ahead, its shadows stretching toward me like fingers. The footprints continued, pressing into the snow where no one had walked, and the voice, her voice was waiting. "Teanata," I swallowed, and I followed. I ran until my breath came in sharp, ragged gasps. The trees around me stretched impossibly tall, their gnarled limbs clawing at the night sky, shadows bleeding into one another. The cold bit at my skin, but I barely felt it. The only thing I felt was the weight of something behind me, something unseen, something waiting. The whispers had stopped. That was the worst part. When they spoke, at least I knew where they were. But now, in the dead silence of the forest, I could hear nothing but my own heartbeat pounding in my ears. My own thoughts turning against me. Had I imagined it? Had I wandered too far? Let fear take root in my mind? Then, Teanata. It wasn't a whisper this time. It was a voice clear as the air around me. My own name, spoken with unnatural calm. Not far, not close, just there. I turned slowly. Between the trees, something moved. A shape. Not human, not animal. A shifting, writhing thing that did not belong to this world. I did not see it, yet I knew it was there. The wind shifted, carrying the scent of damp earth and something else. Something sore, something wrong. My hands trembled as I reached for my bow, but my fingers wouldn't grip the string. My body knew what my mind refused to understand. I was prey. "Why did you come?" The voice was not my own. Not anymore. It was layered, 1,000 echoes collapsing into one. A question I did not know how to answer. The trees around me groaned. The shadows stretched. I blinked, and the ground beneath me seemed to shift, as if I stood not on solid earth, but on the edge of something vast and waiting. My heartbeat slowed. It wasn't chasing me. It never had been. It was calling me. I thought of Itsati, of the others who had vanished into the dark. They had followed the whispers, the way I had. They had listened, and now they were gone. Takota's voice rang in my mind. "If you hear the whispers, do not answer. Do not follow." I closed my eyes. The air turned heavy, pressing against my skin, filling my lungs like drowning. The ground beneath me shifted again, the thing between the trees moving closer, closer, but I did not run. I did not move. I did not listen. The voice spoke again, its tone twisting, stretching, breaking. "Teyanada, why did you come?" I forced my breath to steady. I did not answer. A sharp, guttural sound cut through the silence. A noise I had never heard before. Something primal, something angry. The weight pressing against me suddenly lifted, and the air turned thin, like a great emptiness had swallowed the space around me. I opened my eyes. The forest was still. The thing was gone, or maybe it had never been there at all. I stood for a long time, watching, waiting. The wind stirred the branches, carrying only the scent of cold earth and pine. The world had returned to itself, but I knew better. It had let me go. This time, I woke up in the snow. The sky above me was a vast, empty stretch of gray, the kind that swallowed the sun and left the world cold and lifeless. My body ached, my limbs stiff, but I was alive. The village was in the distance, its familiar smoke curling into the air, the sound of crackling fires and quiet voices reaching me like echoes from another world. I did not remember how I got here. The last thing I recalled was the voice, no, the voices, swarming in my head, calling my name, pulling me towards something I should have never seen. I had stopped, refused to move, and then nothing. Takota was waiting for me at the edge of the village. He did not look surprised to see me. The lines on his weathered face deepened as he studied me, his eyes dark and unreadable. He did not ask me what happened. He did not need to. "It let you go this time," he said simply. I should have felt relief. I should have fallen to my knees, thanking the spirits, thanking the ancestors, thanking whatever force had allowed me to escape. But I didn't, because I knew, deep in my bones, that I had not escaped at all. The other hunters were gone. Atsati, Noya, Dagon, they never returned. Their names were spoken less and less as the days passed, their memories fading like footprints swallowed by fresh snow. The village moved on, as it always had, as it always would, but I knew the truth. At night, the silence was different. I would sit by the fire, staring into the embers, listening to the world breathe. But the wind did not sound the same anymore. It carried something with it, something just beneath the surface, something waiting. The first time I heard it, I nearly convinced myself it was a dream, a whisper, my name, not from the woods, not from beyond the village, from inside my hut, inside my own mind. I did not answer, I did not move, but the whisper did not stop. It curled around me like smoke, pressing against my skin, slipping into my thoughts. "You left too soon." It was not my voice. It was not any voice I knew. I clenched my jaw, shut my eyes, focused on the warmth of the fire, the weight of the fur blankets around me, the feeling of the ground beneath my hands. "You hear me?" It breathed. I said nothing. I did not sleep that night. The days passed, and I told no one. What would I say? That I was being followed by something I could not see. That the thing from the forest had not let me go. Not really. I avoided the tree line, even in daylight. The woods that had once been my home, my hunting ground, now felt wrong. The shadows stretched too far. The silence pressed too heavy. And sometimes, when the wind shifted, I swore I saw something move just beyond the reach of my sight. The villagers did not notice. Or perhaps they did, and, like always, they chose not to speak of it. Takota watched me, though. He saw the way my hands trembled when I thought no one was looking, the way I flinched at the sound of the wind. One evening, as I sat alone by the fire, he placed a hand on my shoulder. "You must not let it in." I did not ask him what he meant, because I already knew. The whispers had not stopped. They never would. I was no longer in the forest, but the forest was in me.